In today's Leeds news, Rodon on Muharmovic timing, Leeds in 5-club battle for Franculino, Ampadu has his say on Darlow exit, and Joe Piroe still sees his future at Leeds United. Tuesday, the 21st of July, Jer here at the Leeds View, with your daily Leeds United news. We do these Monday to Friday, as well as a transfer wrap-up at the weekends. And we also do 2 podcasts a week and are part of the Sports Social Podcasting Network. We'll have a podcast out tomorrow night, Wednesday, where Steve Carlisle will be joining us to talk all about SCR, what it actually means, and what Leeds' potential summer budget actually might look like. Because unfortunately, it's not as black and white as net spend anymore, and we need to dive into it in a bit more detail. So looking forward to speaking to Steve tomorrow evening on the podcast. Also, the nominations for the Football Content Awards close on August 5th. If you want to nominate us for those awards, you feel like doing it, QR code on screen if you want to scan that, or a link down below. You can nominate us for any of the categories there. And then I believe in September, October time, they will announce who the nominees are before it goes then to a vote. Half public vote, half jury vote. And that's how they work it. But if you want to get involved in that, you're very welcome to. Let's move on, start off today's news, and let's talk about Tarik Muharemovic. So Joe Rodon has been speaking about the arrival of Tarik Muharemovic, and he seems pretty excited about the arrival of a new defensive partner. Also, he seems very happy about what Leeds are trying to build into the new season. Rodon was talking with the media on Monday as the players get ready to head off on their US tour, and he genuinely seems impressed with what Leeds are trying to build behind the scene, and maybe he knows more of what Leeds are attempting to do with the targets that we haven't seen come in just yet. But he was talking about Tarik Muharemovic's arrival at the club, and he said the following. Of course, it's huge. The earliest you can get a player in, the more the manager can blend him in with the squad, and then everyone gets to know each other and get that feel on the pitch as early as possible, because then, of course, when you come to the season, it becomes natural and a better feeling. So it's really important. He was also asked about, does Daniel Farke plan on playing 4 at the back or 5 at the back this season? And he wouldn't answer that question. He was very coy about that one completely. So we'll have to wait and see what he does in pre-season. Don't be shocked to see both systems being used by Daniel Farke as he eyeballs what his best looking side could be. But one quote that Joe Rodon did give us that should stick with us for this rest of this pre-season is the following one. We want to make the squad bigger. We want to make the squad better and more competitive, because we want to be a top team. We want to be competing. And I think it's been a great start so far, and long may it continue in the transfer window. Bigger, better team, more competitive, all great stuff to see. We'll see what Leeds can do with the remainder of their targets over the next couple of weeks. He was also asked about the potential of taking over the vice-captain role from Pascal Stroke. Obviously, Ilan Meslier was part of that leadership team that was there in the championship as well, and he said it would be an absolute honour to get that role, and I think he should. I think Joe Rodon is one of the first names on the team sheet. I think he is underrated and possibly undervalued. People always talk about new shiny toys, and Joe Rodon went about his job last season with minimal fuss and was absolutely fantastic for Leeds. One of the, if not first names on the team sheet for me. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's only going to get better at the club. Right, let's talk about a battle for a striker. It has been deathly quiet over the last couple of weeks in terms of links to a striker. Well, not just links to a striker, but even rumours to a striker, even pinch of salt stuff for a striker. Leeds haven't been mentioned by any strikers for a while now. But a name that has popped up is one that did pop up before, and it's FC Midtjylland's striker, Franculino Djú. There could be a little bit of a catch on this one, and it might be all around a transfer fee. If Leeds have any hope of signing Franculino Djú, or if they're even interested in him, they will have to break the Danish transfer record. Now, that's not hundreds of millions, so it's not a massive deal, but you also add in the source on this, and it's not particularly strong team talk and Graham Bailey, although Graham Bailey on his own tends to be a lot stronger than Team Talk's links themselves. But anyway, what Graham Bailey has put out today is that Leeds United, Newcastle United, Everton and Fulham, along with Brentford, are all said to be interested in FC Midtjylland's 21-year-old striker, Franculino Dju. Now, Midtjylland are believed to not be willing to stand in his way and will let him go as long as they get a valuation for him that they want. Now, there was a bid put in for him in the winter transfer window. A Saudi Pro League side put in a €25 million, so about £21 million offer for him. That was rejected at the time. They want significantly more to that. We'll get to that in a minute. The Guinea-Bissau international has been one of Scandinavia's absolute standout strikers since he moved from Benfica to the club back in 2023. He did pick up a bit of a knee injury towards the back end of last season and missed a few games, but that hasn't stopped him clocking up some impressive numbers along the way. 55 goals in 107 appearances, and last season in 28 matches, 21 goals and 3 assists. Now, any player at a young age, at any level, clocking up those kind of numbers is seriously prolific. There will always be the question, can that be replicated into the Premier League? That remains to be seen, but he's a very young lad. But he's definitely got an eye for goal. Now, Franculino was linked with Leeds way back in November, when at the time we were talked about Jurgen Strand Larsen, as well as a couple of other strikers, Piroe, because of course Piroe. But at that time, Leeds didn't make a move for him. He's not exactly what you call the same profile of strikers as a Strand Larsen, but Midtjylland are believed to want in and around £40 million for him, which would make him a Danish record signing or sale. And from a Leeds perspective, would also make him Leeds United's record signing. Now, you can't see Leeds making a move for a 21-year-old from a Danish league for £40 million unless they see something really impressive in him. Unless it's some form of a structured deal where it's 25 million quid maybe and sell on clause or add-ons down the road if he ticks off a number of goals or whatever over a couple of seasons. But he has been looked at by quite a number of clubs. PSG, Arsenal and Man City also all had a look at him back in January as well. So he's floating around those top-end clubs who are keeping an eye on what he's doing right now. I think everyone's looking for the next Erling Haaland to come out of Scandinavia. But he is fit again right now. He is available right now. He is on Leeds' shortlist, but it's a lot of money for a player. You would imagine if they are interested in him, they try and negotiate that way down on that one if they can. He can go, but he will be a record signing. Also, interestingly enough, he's 5'11" in height, so not quite the 6 foot big bastard that Leeds tend to go for, but he's a couple of millimetres off 6 foot, so pretty close to it as well. Let's move on. Right, so Karl Darlow's switch across the Pennines was always going to... Look, it was going to have a ton of negativity attached to it, wasn't it? There was no doubt about that. But Leeds United captain Ethan Ampadu and fellow Welsh colleague has finally had his say on this. And he was speaking with BBC West Yorkshire about Darlow's exit. Not just Darlow, but also Stroke and Ilan Melies as well. And he said it's always difficult to see players that you've worked with, people you've worked with, leave the club. And he said it hit him personally as well. But speaking on it, he had the following to say. I think Karl's decision is Karl's decision. I know him well as a player and as a person, so it's always sad when you see someone close to you, also Pascal and Ilan, when you see someone you've worked hard with go, it's always a sad thing. But when people leave, it's nothing but wishing everyone the very best in their careers. And I know that when me and Karl go away with the Wales lads, we'll still get on well. And we're still going to try and achieve a good Nations League and qualify for the Euros. So we'll speak to Karl then. Darlow, as we know, is believed to have turned down his deal at Leeds United because Leeds couldn't guarantee him the number 1 spot in goal next season. So instead, he decided to take a deal at Manchester where he would be guaranteed the number 2 spot and guaranteed a spot on the bench for the whole season and maybe even put his international place at risk. But that's Karl Darlow's decision. Let's move on. I was going to pop up at some point, but now it's time to talk about Joel Piroe again. And he has been expected amongst a few players to be the ones that move on this summer. Leeds are said to be actively looking for a striker. Piroe said that he would look into his own future in the summer way back in January. He only managed 2 starts in the Premier League last season, 16 appearances overall, and only managed to clock up 315 Premier League minutes over the course of last season. But Piroe said back in January that he would look at his future this summer, and here we are right now. But despite all of that noise, Joel Piroe says he has no intention of walking away from the challenge at Leeds United and still sees a future at the club. Speaking to Flash Score in an exclusive interview, he believes his future still remains at Leeds and said the following. I don't think it did anything to my confidence because when you play a very low number of minutes, it's maybe 21 appearances, but you look at the minutes, then it's not something that I would punish myself for. At the same time, when you think about some games, like the home game against Manchester United, when I could have scored the winner in the last minute, of course, those moments can make you angry and you think, I should have done better. But at the same time that happens, you also think that if I played maybe the full game or more minutes, then for sure I would have scored more. And going into the new season and his position in the club and where he sees his future, he said this. The team's goal will be to at least replicate last season and hopefully do even better to get closer to 10th place or maybe even more. On a personal level, I just want to show my growth and show that I've adapted to the league now and that I can step up. I just want to prove myself with Leeds in the Premier League. I had a little bit of a feeling that I didn't want to run away from the challenge in January. And of course, when pre-season starts, I will see and feel a bit more about what the club thinks as well. But for now, I just want to present myself in a way where I can show that these are the steps that I've made in comparison to last season. He also very clearly said, I still see my future at Leeds United. Now, I think the main issue for Joel Piroe at Leeds United has always been fitting into a certain type of a system. Go back to the 4-3-3 in the Championship. Leeds played him as a 10 initially and then as a 9, and it was kind of a 9.5 position. If Leeds play with 4-3-3 next season, he's not a lone striker, so he's unlikely to play in that system. And if Daniel Farke sticks with the 3-4-2-1, he's unlikely to play in that system. Joel Piroe has struggled in a lone man striking position. That's probably because he's not a hold-up striker, and his hold-up play isn't at the level of even Lucas Metje, and definitely not of a Dominic Calvert-Lewin. His finishing is excellent when he gets in positions to score, but it will all come down to where he fits. Daniel Farke has commented on Joel Piroe being a kind of a second striker, or a 9.5, or works best off of a 2, but he has never really played a 2. And when he has played a 2, he played Lucas Metje with Dominic Calvert-Lewin instead. I'd like to see him with DCL. I would have really liked to see him play with DCL up front last season. I think that pairing could have worked, but it's very unlikely to see Leeds playing with 2 strikers. It's unusual to see any club playing with 2 strikers now, because you tend to lose a position in midfield, and if you lose the midfield of a game, you tend to lose the game. So it's a really tough position for him. He doesn't have the work rate for a number 10. He doesn't have the pressing ability, and that's been talked about for 3 years at this stage. So unless those areas have improved over the course of the pre-season and he gets a chance to show it in the US that he has improved on those, maybe he gets a second chance. Maybe the fact that Leeds are showing lots of pictures of him in pre-season as well is telling us something without telling us, something that Joel Piroe is maybe sticking around a bit longer. But it will likely be the early parts of pre-season to have a look at him. There hasn't been a huge amount of clubs linked with him. There was a few back in January, but right now it's very quiet on links. And Joel Piroe right now, at the very minimum, seems to be focused on trying to make sure Leeds and Daniel Farke consider him for one of those positions up front this season. So big steps to take from last year. No Premier League goals last season. A couple of goals in the FA Cup. A couple of penalty misses as well. I like Joel Piroe. None of this is coming from a negative position. I think what he's done for Leeds in the Championship was phenomenal. And I'd love to see him be a success at the club. But I just think with Leeds looking at another striker, he is the obvious make weight there. And you're talking about upgrading players and upgrading positions. He does stand out as one of the obvious ones. But he's not even in his peak years yet. So you never know. Maybe he does hit the ground running next year and goes on and smashes it. We'll see. Anyway, folks, that'll be it for me today. Massive thanks as always for supporting the channel. I will talk to you soon. See you later.